Happy Winning Wednesday. It's about 2 minutes to noon, and I want to welcome everyone that's coming in to day 2 of the profit plan. I'm super excited about sharing what we have today and how it's going to bring a lot more fun into your workplace, and because we're going to be talking about processes. So for those of you who are joining us, I would encourage you to turn off your phones and be fully present because this day is for you. And I'm going to pour my heart and soul out to you with all my tips and tricks on things that I've learned over the last 29 years in leadership positions for management, both globally and nationally, as well as in consulting roles. My name is Rhonda Petit. I am a sales business peak performance coach. I am an author, speaker, and CEO of 3x5 Coaching, where we help B2B sales teams get their disruptive technology adopted into the marketplace so they can become the go-to vertical leader in their space, in their niche, where they can truly serve the people that they're here to serve. And today we are talking about day 2, the profit plan and processes. And I'm honored that you're spending some time with me. A little bit about my story, if you don't know me and you're joining in for the first time. I've been in sales since I was 21 years old. I'm a chemistry major. I also had a dual major in business administration. So I've always been interested in the free enterprise part of life. And I think that's why I went into sales right away at 21. I started selling chemicals and did that for about 11 years before I moved into some management roles. Was there with Applied Biosystems when the human genome was taking off, and my career kind of went into the area of genomics and then into molecular diagnostics. And in 2017, I started my company. And in 2019, I went full-time with my company and have been enjoying it ever since. So I love sales and love talking about how you can increase your productivity in your work. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring up today's presentation, and I'm going to ask you that if you have any questions whatsoever while this presentation's going on, put it in the chat. Anyone that's here that's registered, I want to connect with you for 15 minutes just to get to know who you are, what you might like to see in the future, how I might support you. If there's any questions that I can ask to be of service to you today moving forward, please ask away, because I've got lots of information that I'd love to give and share if it can be of a benefit to you. So yesterday we talked about the whole idea of this profit plan, and that it was based on an investment philosophy, which is a perspective and a way of viewing the world, because all of our experiences are based upon the perceptions and the way that we view the world. And perceptions are based upon beliefs, that these are ideas that we accept to be true, and they're kind of in the background. And then the way we see the world through our eyes is through lenses of perception. And there's a lens and a philosophy, a core belief of investment that goes right with the universal laws for nature and the universe we live in. And it's all based upon increase and life and continuing to grow and expand. And if you think about the word investment just in the basic business concepts, it means a future return, or what they call a profit. And that's why we're talking about a profit plan this week. Now, the pillars, I call them the pillars, or the disciplines that the people who adopt this philosophy have, are easy to do and easy not to do. But those disciplines make all the difference in the results that they have, and in their endurance level, and their ability to come back from any kind of thing that hits them in their career or in the environment, conditions, circumstances, events, and come back like a champion that bounces back up, like the football player that gets knocked down and just jumps right back up and gets right into the game. And those disciplines are less is more, be best in class, and it's all about making impact to the marketplace. Now, if you use those 3 disciplines, the reason I bring them up and the reason that I'm having this event is because we're in med tech. Med tech is booming. It's growing. It's exciting. Over the next 7 years, it's going to be more than 300 some billion dollars. It's growing at a CAGR of about 5% a year. So it's a cool place to be. And it's so exciting to see all the science and the companies that want to bring this life-changing technology to the market. And I want to help that happen. But unfortunately, only 1 out of 4 of those 1,600 businesses that are coming, that make up the space, are staying in the business beyond 5 years. And that's a sad statistic, because 25% of them get to play the infinite game, and the rest of them are not lasting that long. And it's really not anyone's fault or intention that happens, but it is about an unconscious bias that can cause some issues. And yesterday we talked about the differences between an investment perception and one of trade. So if you think about the disciplines that these people with this investment view have and what that means in the marketplace, when I say less is more, there's a reason that Chick-fil-A doesn't sell pizza and closes on Sunday, because they know who they're here to serve. They know the value of their contribution. They make chicken really, really well. They have great customer service, and they have certain values that resonate with a certain population in the United States that makes them the #1 chain. So you as well, when you bring your disruptive technology to the market, have a very unique set, a unique problem that you solve, and you get paid for that problem. And you also get paid well and with profit when you understand how valuable that contribution is. So it's about less is more, is about leaning in when you know it's for you and your niche, and you know who your customer is, and being able to strategically quit or not get pulled into too many directions that are going to dissipate your energy, and not staying in your zone of strength. The second discipline is all about being the best in class. And like I said yesterday, when you go to look for a restaurant, you don't say, I want the most mediocre pizza joint in New York City. You always Google for the best, right? People want the best in class. And when you bring the best in class to them, you get rewarded, because your compensation, according to the law of compensation, the law of cause and effect, is in direct proportion to your efforts and your contributions. So when you go to the market to give and to contribute and to make impact, that gets rewarded by law, not by luck. And it takes discipline to decide you're going to become best in class, but it's a really wise choice, because it's easier to win when you do. The third thing that the 25%, looking through this lens of investment perspective, do is that they come to market with intention. So when I say they get up and they bounce back no matter what conditions, circumstances, or events happen, that's because they trade recency for intentionality. They're always going back to their intention. They know they've been called. They know they've been blessed. They know that each one of us has a unique gift, and we were created by our Creator to give that gift, and they go follow their calling. And they take their indifference and they trade it for belief. And when they come to market with intention, knowing exactly who they're there to serve, and why they want to be able to make that impact and leave the world a better place with their stewardship than the way they found it, that belief and that conviction sells. And it's very powerful. And because of that, that's why they succeed. That's why they can weather any storm. The law of rhythm says there's always going to be ups and downs, but every big season harvest is always preceded by a season of big investment. And that's what I'm talking about this week. 2024 is coming off of 2023, and it's been a tougher, longer haul. It's not been easy in the sense that, people are just spending like crazy. People are spending, but they're spending with much more discernment. Sales cycles have gone longer. So, having that intention and belief and that faith that I said yesterday about an investment perspective is one of faith, not being biased by what you see, but actually believing and knowing that if you're sowing the seeds and putting the work in and putting the reps in, that it's going to make a difference and it will blossom and you will have a reward. Now, the 3 P's or pillars that drive these high performance teams in these organizations that have this investment philosophy, like Simon Sinek's book says, they're in it for the infinite game. They have 3 core pillars. It's their people and the relationships they have with people. And I'm not just talking about employees within the organization, but I'm talking about the relationships that they build with their customers. Everything's based on a future return. So it's a long game. It's not a short game. It's not an extraction game. It's an investment game where you want to build a recurring revenue base for your business, and you want to build relationships, partnerships, collaborations where minds can come together and really create impact all over for all of us. That kind of an attitude that they come to with their people. The second thing that these pros do is that they focus on processes, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to share with you how fun it can be once you get in the spirit of process and how to get buy-in for process. And then the third part, so the process is really to talk about how you use your critical resource of time to your benefit and use time as your friend. And then tomorrow we'll talk about how you use your money resources as your friend as well to grow and gain a return for tomorrow, for the future. And when you put those 3 pillars together, that's what builds the pro and the business, because a business is not the brick and mortar, right? It's the people, it's the processes and the profits that are that generate and just, declare it as being a business, something that's circular, that's moving, that has lots of oxygen flow, and it's growing and expanding just like everything in nature. And that's what businesses are created to do, right? To keep going. So just to sum up some of the things we talked about yesterday, there's a pro and profit, and the people investments you make matter. So we gave you some, we talked about an assessment that you can take to help grow your people and grow everyone's emotional intelligence, because there's some blocks that can cause that perception to be skewed, so that's not really clear in the investment perspective. And when you do that, and get engagement high with your people, and you really get their dream to fit into your business, you start making high impact profit players and developing cultures where it's like we come to work and we say, okay, guys, how are we going to earn some money today? What kind of value we're going to create for our customers? And people are in the spirit of selling. And we talked about having power in your presence, that when you step into the marketplace, your presence is you're known for what you do, and all your messaging and everything that you project out to the world is stating your presence, and how you show up. It matters, because your energy is either catabolic, which we talked about yesterday, which is heavy and low, or your energy is high, anabolic. And when you're in that high energetic state, it's like high vibe energy, like people want to come around you, just like at a party when somebody's like, that the person that everybody's going up to talk to. It's like you want that kind of energetics in your business, because business is a game of energetics. So you go to the marketplace with this high vibe energy and this energy of investing and leaving the place better than you found it, with the stewardship. And that's an energy of investment, and that attracts all kinds of people to you. The world conspires and things just start coming to you. But if you go to the market with that scarcity, trade, one-time, linear mindset, people feel that needy energy. It's just like when you're dating and somebody really wanted to date you really bad and was constantly calling you, and we're like, get away, because you could feel that neediness. So when you get everyone's emotional intelligence, and you as the visionary leader have that awareness, so you don't have any unconscious bias, and you can choose how you're going to show up. You can start responding instead of reacting. You become the pro, and the pro brings the profits into the organization. So today we're going to talk about processes, and this is one of my favorite subjects. I think I've spent 25 years in sales leadership roles globally and nationally before I stepped into leadership role as the owner of my business. And I'm big on processes because when I can get engagement of everyone around the processes create consistency. And there's a 10,000 hour rule. I think there was a book called the 10,000 hour rule. But if you look at people like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, or even on the football, Super Bowl with Holmes in the last, what did he have, a minute or a second or 10, I don't know what it was, but it was, in that last minute, he stood there as a master and a pro, knowing exactly what he had to do. He was totally focused. All his energy was not dissipated on anything else except the task at hand. And they were able to go win a touchdown. That comes from hours compounded, doing something really, really well, and always taking your game to the next level. The other thing is that you're going to see today is that mastery begins with service. It all starts with the giving. The more people you serve, the more you become a better master at the service. So, and then the other thing is that when you're selling and you're doing anything in a system, the order creates more orders, because order is heaven's first law. So let's dig into processes today. And again, if anyone has any questions while we go through this, thoughts or whatever, just start tapping them in the chat and I will respond to each and every one of you. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Okay, so here's the concept of time and success. It all happens on a curve. It's nonlinear. Jim Rohn used to say, the difference between success and failures are a few small disciplines practiced every day, or a few minor errors in judgment practiced every day. So, it's the difference between taking responsibility or playing the blame game. And I know all of you, you're here, you resonated with what I said because you're a visionary leader. You take responsibility. You want to have the disciplines. You want to share those disciplines because disciplines provide that consistency. You're all about value, raising your standards. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And it's easy to step, on the success curve, even if you've been off of it. And so what I'm hoping this week is that I'm going to help more people understand that this core philosophy is where it all starts. The thought of investment, future return. Everything you're doing is about investing for a future profit, future return, something that you're building. And then there's the attitude, which is that game of energetics that I talked about. So the energy that you bring to the market and the excitement. I wrote my book. It's called The Spirit of Selling. It's all about getting into the spirit of the game with that attitude that's one of service. And then the processes that we're going to talk about today come into taking the action, because we can think about this, all the stuff, we can gather information, but nothing ever happens without action, because action is where the receiving happens. If we don't take action, the cause and effect law can't happen, right? Because every Newton's law, right, of physics with the balls going, right? Every action causes a reaction. So you can have the philosophy, you can be excited and optimistic, but if you don't take action, that's where the ball drops. So the action is going to cause the results you want. And over time, those results, what we're going to talk about today, is not linear thinking, which is adding to. I want to talk about how do you use leverage to multiply and build a process that's going to create exponential growth, quantum leap growth through physics, using time as your friend, as opposed to thinking just linearly based upon directing your thinking on what is created as opposed to what you're going to create new. It all comes back to the law of compensation, like we talked about yesterday. The law of compensation says when we go to the marketplace pays for value. You will be compensated by the demand for what you do. So ask yourself, is what I'm selling needed in the marketplace? And if that answer is yes, you're in a good place. Number two, how well do I sell? How well do I serve customers? How well is my sales presentation? Your ability to do your job in persuading people to accept new ideas your new technology, your new disruptive technology, a different way of doing something that they may not be aware of, or challenging their thinking to think differently so that they can see something that they couldn't see before you arrived. That's all a gift of service. So your ability to do your job is and serve others is really the biggest part of the compensation that you can control. And then as you get really, really good, guess what? Your stock value goes up because it's difficult to replace you. So when they're, if you're doing more than what you're being paid for, they're not going to be able to afford not to have you around, and they're going to want to have you around and have you as a counselor. So that law of compensation drives processes, because processes, things repeated over time, thanks to the good Lord, things go into what we call habits. And those, once you make something a habit, it becomes harder not to do than to do. So this is all about getting those processes identified and then getting them into habits that are going to create the results you want. So before I share what I'm going to share, I have some questions for you to think about with your workbook. So if you have your day 2 workbook in your notes, you want to think about this and really think about, it's 2024. It's leap year. I mean, I would get excited as a sales leader every year. It's like, wow, this is going to be the year. We're going to really do something dramatically, big that we haven't yet done before. What is it going to be, and how big can we think? How big and hairy, audacious goals can we have? But if while you're doing your goal setting and thinking about the big, hairy, audacious goals, you want to think about the philosophy you're going to embrace this year, in this leap year, as a visionary leader, and how that philosophy and that belief can get transferred to your team and really create a high level of engagement. I want you to ask yourself, do you believe with me that it's about leveraging and scaling that causes quantum leaps? Because leveraging something is figuring out how you can multiply your efforts with the least amount of effort in to get the greatest amount out. Do you believe that becoming best in class is a wise idea? Is that a standard you're going to live by? And then this one, I want you to answer. If you could wave a magic wand and get $1 million handed to you today, or $1 million mindset, which one would you choose? I know my answer, but think about that. Because once you get awareness, it can never be taken away from you. And you can go replicate anything that you've done before. And that's the beauty of thinking through an investment mindset. Okay, so why we're talking the 25% lean into processes, those that want to become best in class, is because of the consistency. Consistency sells, right? No, everyone would agree that when you go look at a restaurant and it's got lines out the side, you know that they've got consistent product in there because everybody wants to get in there, right? It sells. So the more consistent that your team shows up in the marketplace, the more that's going to cause people to be attracted to you. But here's the deal that I didn't know. I never was told this, to work from the goal instead of to the goal. And sometimes that's why I know I struggled in the past when I was a sales leader, because I was always trying to reach out towards it instead of working from it. And this is the secret that I'm going to share with you today, so that you can walk out by re-engineering some of the processes you're going to use in 2024 based upon your 2024 goal. Every year that you're going to grow and expand, I want you to use this exercise for your benefit, because it really works if you get the concept, and it's through the investment lens. Like I said, it's been tough. My mentor that I have today, she says it all the time. She says the reason most companies are failing, and the last year in 2023, there was a ton of businesses that just said, they were like pounding out. What's that called when you're wrestling or something and you just say, I want out? A lot of people went out because they failed to understand that seasons of greatness are preceded by seasons of investment. I'll say that again. Seasons of greatness are preceded by seasons of investment. 2024 is your opportunity to stand out by leaning into this investment philosophy. I'm telling you, because those who are going to do it, those of us that are going to persevere, stay in the marketplace, even if we can't see the results right now, but we know that there's a law that says when you plant those seeds and you lean into the processes, time is your friend. It's like a lily pod that's growing underneath the water, and then all of a sudden all the lilies come up. It happens over time. It happens through compound work that's leveraged. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But just remember that it's you've got to hold on. You've got to persevere sometimes when the times are tough, and you've got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe in the process, because by law, this is how nature works, folks. Universal law states this. This is timeless principles. This isn't a, now we've got a lot of things for AI. Before there were funnel systems that people were selling in 2020, and now they don't work anymore. I'm talking timeless strategy, investment strategy here. So 2024, if you want to be part of the visionary leadership, I invite you to join me and think about investing and make that the mission in your commission, because this investment in processes is going to pay huge dividends. Now, I always like the analogy of Lady Liberty, right? Because Lady Liberty has the blindfold on, right? Because you want to be unbiased by appearances. So sometimes that's the problem. People are looking at the bottom line. Yesterday, I had that movie up about Nike Air and Ben Affleck or Matt Damon saying to Ben Affleck, all you're worried about is the bottom line and what you're going to tell the board. And that's what we hear a lot about in business. Hey, I've been in small companies, startups and stuff like that. I had to speak with board members. I get it. I know. They're looking at what is, and they've got to report on what is. But the reality is there is, stuff going on that just because absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And when you have a foundation, the viewpoint or perspective, and when you're building a process, there's going to be things you don't see. Just like if you plant a seed in the ground, you don't see gardeners or farmers out there once they plant the tomato 2 weeks later going out trying to dig up the seeds to see if it got root, right? That would screw it up, right? They have a faith. That's, yesterday I had the difference between investment and trade, right? Faith at the top on investment, fear at the top on trade. So you can't look at what is, because what is today is a result of yesterday's actions, yesterday's decisions, and the decisions and the actions you take today are creating your future. Again, this is just nature, folks. So if you adopt this self-trust in yourself and trust the philosophy of universal law, that this is the way nature works, and lean into it, it's going to start working with you, because that power of time is going to help you do this multiplication and these quantum leaps that you can't do on your own if you're just separated and you're trying to do it all by yourself as a lone ranger. So the question that I want to ask you is, how well have you been leveraging your power of time and using it? So yesterday, as an example, we talked about the productivity hack with your people that you could go to the sales team. I love that one. I've got so many people after having that conversation have increased their productivity. They're having fun. They're making calls. They're in the momentum. They're back in the game again. I tell them intention, not perfection. It's going to get 1% better every day. That's going to compound over time. And they're excited. They're back having fun again. That's what I mean about the fun in processes. When you can get engagement of people thinking about their time as a resource, not something that's fallen through the cracks, getting dissipated, but actually using it as a lever, it can be so powerful that you can make quantum leaps by focusing on the things that are going to move the lever. So right now in the chat, if you're live with me here on LinkedIn, I want to see some numbers in there from you. And I want you to ask yourself a question about your team. You're in one of 5 categories. You're number 1. Right now, you don't have a sales process. Everyone's just winging it. And you just haven't had time to deal with that. No judgment on any of this. No judgment here. I'm just helping you look just like I would every year as a leader as to what I might want to do differently or investigate or evaluate or put some time and effort into a process for. Number 2, you have a process. You've given it to your team. There's an SOP, but your team doesn't really understand the psychological reasons behind it. So you could have new people. You could have a young group of people just out of college. They're selling for the first time. They never got trained in maybe what the psychology is. So maybe they're kind of feeling mechanical. And when they get on the phone, they're feeling a little inauthentic because they're just reading from a script because they don't understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. That's a 2. So you have the process, but the psychology part, maybe that's an opportunity for an educational opportunity for your team. Number 3, you have a process, but no one's sticking to it. No one's bought into it. Sometimes that happens. How are you going to create buy-in? You know, you might have people that have been in sales for 10 years, another group that in 20, and some of the new ones that are just coming in. And how do you get all 3 of those groups to buy into why are we going to do this process for our company this way because it works? If that's you, put a 3. If you have a process, you've got buy-in and you got rigor and you follow it and it's working really great, congratulations. Put in a 4. But then I'm going to ask you the question is, do you re-engineer that process? Has it been working for the last couple of years, but are you going to have to, if things slow down in your business, then maybe you're going to have to do some re-engineering. Because the question is, every year, are you constantly re-engineering the processes to make sure that you're working from the goal as opposed to trying to stretch to it? So if that's you, put a 5. And hopefully this is helping you think of or open up your mind. I'm gonna ask you to just leave your mind open. You don't have to accept what I say, but if you want, you know, they say one idea can change your life. So if you keep your mind open, all I'm asking you to do is use your critical thinking skills and to see if anything that I'm going to share with you could be helpful. But this will help you in your profit plan around processes to think about what you want to do moving forward after this week. And I'm also going to share at the end some ways that I might be able to help you if some of you are interested in going in the fast lane. And I'm going to share an idea right now that you can implement this week. Now, well, the other thing that I want you to think about since you're evaluating processes and what do I need to do this year is I want you to think about the cost of not doing anything about your processes, because that's just as important. So, you know, some of you are going to, you know, every year you're saying, how do I take the bar to the next level? But some of you may be so overwhelmed that you're thinking, I just don't have time to deal with that. I'm just trying to keep my head above water as it is. I want you to seriously ask yourself, what's the cost if your team doesn't perform well? Because Harvard's business review in 2023 stated that poor team performance is costing businesses an estimated $15.5 million a year on average. 15.5 million. Why? Because they're losing revenue. They've got customer acquisition costs are high because they're not keeping and retaining customers and putting them into a cyclic funnel. They've got turnover issues. They're missing opportunities. Maybe that something happened and their reputation got damaged. The morale's down. Productivity's not up. And maybe the sales people really don't have the skills on how to do some of that prospecting. So you're spending a lot of money outsourcing your marketing efforts and your advertising. Do you have people that are giving away excessive discounts just to get the order in the door when you want it? And then, you know, customer retention costs, because if you're not keeping those customers and you have to keep bringing new ones in, it's more expensive to keep bringing those in. There should be a balance in your pie chart in terms of business that you're like we talked about yesterday, the new business, the, you know, upsells, the engagement contracts and the referrals, right? And then as a result, you may have some needs in terms of tech tool and investments, training and development as a result of it. So think about this when it comes to processes, because the cost of no action could be a very high indirect cost that can really, take you maybe not where you want to go in 2024. So how do we sell and create buy-in around processes? I would ask every single one of you, because if you're in sales like me, I kind of know the answer. I think that most of you would agree that if you go to the store, you love it when you have a pro that services you. But it can be frustrating if you have someone that's a real amateur. And I think everyone would love to be serviced by a pro. And the reason I wrote my book on the spirit of selling and leveraging these universal laws is so that we can create a really good image in the world about the sales profession, because it's one of the greatest jobs in the world. And when we do our jobs well, we really serve people and we help people make decisions and move forward and go through transformations and grow and expand. So if everyone knows what to do and why to do it, they can do it in their own way, and they can really enhance the buying experience. That's positive. So how do we start with this process? I asked you a bunch of questions about processes, and what I'd like to do is start by laying the groundwork and then show you how to re-engineer your goal design your process from the goal, as opposed to working towards it based upon an existing process you have. So to lay the groundwork, it's important that whatever you're selling in med tech, it could be capital, it could be software, it could be consumables, whatever it is, that you understand the buying process for your clients. What is their buying decision? So what I mean by that is, in a lot of, especially hospital systems, that maybe they have business objectives and strategies, and somebody says, they determine that there's some gaps and some needs. Somebody, in this complex matrix sets out an initiative and says, we've got to, these are the top 3 initiatives for 2024. Do you understand in that complex environment who's in charge of evaluating the options? What's their process for evaluation? Who's going to determine the decision? And who's on the implementation team? And how will they assess the values? I know like in hospitals, they have value assessments all the time. Do you really understand that and how that works, and how to leverage what you have to align with the buying process? So that's fundamental ground one. Then when you want to look at your lead generation plan, have you identified your ideal customers? And once you get them identified, how well is your team able to qualify these people that are coming into the funnel? So do they know, I always talk about BANT in the discovery before they even present anything. Do they understand if the customer has the budget? Do they understand who the authority is? Who are the roles in the decision making? Who makes the ultimate decision? Does that customer truly need what you have? Is it a good fit? And what's the timing, right? You have to do the needs identification and confirmation. So is your team skilled at saying, okay, based upon what we just covered, I want to repeat this back to you to make sure I've got it right on what you're looking for and what you need? Do you have, when you go to present a value solution, once you've got the needs confirmed, is your team skilled and savvy on the business acumen on how to do a value proposition, whether it's emotional or whether it's financial? And then do you get alignment with your current process on stakeholders and ensure your offer is accepted before it gets placed? And then do you have a growth strategy on the back end of your sales process on how you're going to cyclically run those people through your process again to keep them as long-term loyal customers, because you put in that investment for that collaboration and cooperation? You really understand their business, they understand yours. You might be doing quarterly review meetings, etc. But what's the groundwork? Is all that in your process? So the first things first is looking at the buying process and making sure that the building blocks you're building in your sales process is going to align. Now, if you just want to go for bare bones, basic, fundamental framework, and maybe say you're a startup company and you're not a big, huge organization, put it in simple terms. There's 4 basic blocks. You've got an opening. You have to do an investigation because you want to provide a diagnosis. You can't provide a cure without diagnosis first. Then you want to align the solution specifically for that customer, because people don't want to be treated like, a machine or something. They want an individualized solution. I'm not saying that you have to change your product every time, but you might have to bring in different bells and whistles to customize it to fit that customer's need. And then gaining that agreement on the alignment, then it's asking for the order at the end. Those are the 4 basic blocks. Now, the thing I want to tell you is in the comments today under day 2, I have a free opt-in of a fundamental sales process blueprint that you could use as a starting point to really reevaluate your sales process today and see where you might need some, if there's any gaps, and if there's any gaps or questions you have, put them in the chat. Let's have a conversation, and I'll support you any way I can. Because I want to give you everything I got. If I can dump it out today, everything that I've got to help you, that's going to be my fulfillment. The attitude is big, because you can have that process, but if your people don't go into the sales call with that attitude, that high energetics game, because business is a game of energetics, that can cause problems. Because in the sales process, that if you opt in below, like I said, down in the comments, hit that button, you can download this today. But if your people do not make emotional composites in that process with your clients, your prospective clients, then they will struggle, or the sales cycles will get longer. And it all kind of stems back to the attitude on how they show up. So do they show up to serve and to give, or are they showing up to extract and take? And that's a big difference. So if you haven't from yesterday checked out the ELI assessment and thought about that as an investment for you, minor investment for a huge return, because you're going to be able to see things like that could be blocking you that are unconscious, whether those are judgment, inner critic issues, whether you're interpreting things based upon past events and you're not in the present, like actually being present, seeing it and being curious. If you're making assumptions, it could be negative that can separate you as opposed to positive assumptions that join you. That could be a block, or a limiting belief. Again, there could be limiting beliefs around this whole investment thing that could be blocking you. If you haven't had a chance to check out that assessment, highly recommend it. But your team, every time I do sales training for any kind of event, any corporation, I always include in that package getting this assessment done for the team members, because as you raise the emotional intelligence of your team, your energetics of the team is going to go up, and they're going to understand your customers and be able to take the blocks off your customers based upon what they learn on this assessment. Okay, here's another question for you. When you're thinking about processes and thinking about education in your team, I want to ask you a question. In 1960, there was the McLean brain theory, and it basically states that through human evolution, our brain has 3 areas of the brain. And when we're selling from a psychological standpoint, we have to be skilled to understand and meet the customer where they are and understand which part of the brain that person is at that moment when we meet them. Because the rule is, and the theory has been proven, that one human being cannot be in all 3 of those sections of the mind at the same time. What we do in selling is we have to meet them where they are, but if they're in a survival or fear mode called the reptilian, so think of the green lizard, right? Like a shield, like he's got the shields out and he's got that stone face. And if your team is not skilled on how do I get that person to relax, trust me, and get over to his party hat side of the brain, then you're really not going to go anywhere. So what we're trying to do and what our job is when we're selling is we want to take people on a trip through over to their creative right side of their brain, which is like a Vegas party hat, where they're in their, they're just thinking about like the emotions and how it's going to make them feel. And, they're thinking about seeking pleasure, avoiding pain. And so if you get them in that emotional state, that limbic state of the brain, that's where the selling is going to be. That's why they're going to buy, because people buy based upon how it makes them feel. And then what you're going to need to do is get them over into their left side of the brain to justify their decisions that they're going to make, right? So how well is your team at taking and leading a customer, getting them out of the protection mode, getting them to trust, building value, and being able to display the value at the end and the value proposition, so that and keep them in that high emotional state of why they want to buy, with the desire really high, and be able to justify it with logic. And if they believe you and you're really skilled at that process, you're going to be able to lead people through transformations by being direct, honest, loving, and really helping them. Because the biggest problem most people have is they have struggle making decisions. You're really good at sales, you're going to be really good at making decisions, and you're going to be able to help people make decisions quickly. And when you start doing that, your sales rates are going to go up. So if you haven't got the blueprint and you want to check it out, it's all about order. Order creates more orders. That's like I wrote in my book. Think about it is like most people, when their energy is going all over the place, is just like a magnet, right? If you had a magnet, we're all scientists. A magnet could be sitting on the table demagnetized if it doesn't have order of ions. But by what you do in the sales process is you want to get everybody in order, knowing what they're doing, why the steps are important. And when you have that, that's going to create more attraction and more order in your sales process. So that free guide is on the opt-in. Grab a copy if you don't have one. So let's get to the re-engineering part. This is the last tool for today. But again, this is something you can walk away with today to start implementing a process from the end in mind. And it's going to mostly involve raising standards. So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey still rings true today. He says effectiveness does not depend solely on the effort, but whether not the effort we expend is in the right jungle. And this is what I'm talking about, leverage. And when people start doing processes over and over and over again, and they start building up momentum and they start getting the spirit of the game, you're going to see a snowball effect of positivity in your productivity and your results. Now, how do you do this re-engineering? Engineers know this. They do this all the time. They extract a bunch of information, they model it, and then they review it. In sales, the easiest way, I want to give you an example of re-engineering that you can take away today and use and start thinking about what are the processes that you can build from the goal. So let's say someone's 2024 sales goal is 2 million. And the average product or service offering you have is 10 grand. So that means you need to close 200 deals at 10 grand in 2024. Let's say that whether that's a territory, it's your company, it doesn't matter. And you've got to ask yourself some questions. So are you starting from zero? So if you've done capital sales like I have in the past, as well as consumable, but capital, you typically are starting from a zero, because at the end of the year, you sold that many more instruments, you have to go find new people. So if you're selling CapEx, you're going to have to close 200 of those deals for $210,000 instruments. If you have a recurring revenue base, you're going to have a base of the recurring revenue, and maybe that's $1 million. And then you're going to build another $1 million on top of it, of getting more of these customers to become long-term customers with you. Well, let's, for the sake of argument, I'm going to do it as if it was a capital thing. So that would equate to 17 deals per month. So you take 200 divided by, 200 divided by 12. That's, sorry, I should have a 12 over there instead of a 7 is 17. And then you divide that by, let's say, 4 weeks in a month. So that comes to 4 deals a week, because there's 50 weeks, 2 weeks off for vacation or holidays at least. Let's say 4 deals a week. Basically, in a 5-day week, that's at least 1 sale a day. So that's the goal. So you start from, okay, what's it going to take me to get 1 sale a day? You got to think about, what's my current close rate? So say it's 50%. So every 2 presentations I make, I close 1. That means I'd have to be making 2 presentations a day, not 1. If the lead volume that I get every week, let's say it's 10, I'd ask what percentage of those leads typically turn it. And these are all KPIs that you could start monitoring. So what percentage of those leads turn into qualified prospects? Let's say it's 25%. Well, if that's the case, you're getting 2.5 presentations out of 10 leads. That means you're going to want to generate at least 32 leads a week to get 7 a day. So then you got to ask yourself, what kind of activities do I need to be doing to getting 32 leads a day? That's where you're starting from. And then you've got to, create buy-in with your team to do this process, because we also talked about yesterday on how to do the productivity hack, which again uses leverage to only be working on things that are going to move the lever and blocking those times in to just stay focused, not get pulled off into other meetings or anything, and stay on that activity. So in the end of the day, on some goal like this, the end result of how I'm going to design my process is I'm going to start from what is going to get me 7 leads added daily and 2 presentations a day. And if you design the activities that are going to generate those KPIs, then you're off to the race. And the more that rep starts getting that momentum every single day doing those presentations, they're getting better and better. Their close rate's going to go up. So then their effectiveness, and that's why you're going to get that quantum effect from a process. So re-engineer your goal today. Start with your goal, get it out on a piece of paper, and figure out back down to the KPIs on a daily basis of what to do. And then have everyone focused on that daily KPI. And you keep it there and you monitor progress, and you keep asking people, it's all about intention. How can we get better tomorrow? And just keep working on that. And if you stay focused on that, you will see how you can leverage time to be your friend and end up with a quantum leap in your results. But you got to create buy-in. So you got to believe this for yourself. But if you believe it, then you can create buy-in for your employees, because you have a team, right? So you have to keep going back to their dream, like we talked about yesterday. What do they really want? How well is what they're doing getting them? And what's their current approach costing them? Because what's the cost? Just like you have to think about the cost of a non-productive team. Do you have the right people on the bus? Are they doing the job you need them to do, etc.? The same thing for them. It's like there's an indirect cost if they keep doing what they're doing. And if you help them see that, you can help create buy-in. And if you say to them, well, look, if there's another way to do this that wouldn't cost you as much, would you be interested in learning about it? And then if they say yes, now you're getting buy-in, because they're getting aware, just like when you're selling, that there are these indirect costs if they do nothing, as well as, in doing something. So to sum up today's thing, presentation, processes create consistency, but they also create a ton of fun, because it really does work. The compound effect is happening to us all the time. When we don't do anything, we're going downwards. And when we start doing things, we're going to kick out of the dirt, just like everything in nature. 10,000-hour rule, buy into it. You can see in my book, on the front of the book of The Spirit of Selling, there's a sequence that explains compounding. It's in nature. It's law. It happens by law. Use it for you instead of against you. So just to sum up today, I want to say, how can I support you with processes? So if you have any questions that are in the LinkedIn feed, I'm going to answer those. I'm excited to talk to you. You could be all set, like this was all you needed and you're set to go and you're good. Great. But some of you, I know if you responded to this, you wouldn't have resonated or signed up to be here. Something in your soul is reaching out that you want some assistance on, or maybe you want to go faster. So if you want that support for yourself or for your team, I want to invite you to have a conversation with me to see how I might be able to support you, because that's what I'm here for, to be of service. Many different assets and ways that you can work with me. If you haven't gotten a copy of my book, it's on Amazon, Spirit of Selling. There's a lot of this investment philosophy stuff packed in there. If you decided from yesterday, hey, I really do want to go spend $250 on myself because you got the coupon code for 50 off, and get this assessment and get the debrief from Rhonda and like see what's it like to have her, get some coaching from her and see what it's all about. That's an easy way to test the waters, but I guarantee you take that assessment, you're going to walk away with an impression of increase because you're going to be aware of some things that were totally unconscious to you. I know I was, and that happened to me in 2017. It was the greatest gift I ever got. I have coaching services. So if anyone's planning training or they want to need a speaking event at a sales meeting or something like that, talk to me about that because I do customized training and speaking for sales teams. And then I have a group sales team coaching program. It's a membership for the year where we work on the sales processes and getting mastery in sales processes as well as the mindset, and really tying the psychology into the processes and what you do. And so that's a membership for 12 months. And the reason it's 12 months is because to get new habits and to get that confidence build up, it's still a compounding effect, but the real major results and breakthroughs happen over a 6 to 12 month period. So if you're interested in learning about that, again, just let's get on a call, 15 minutes. I don't bite, I promise. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow because today we talked about time and how to really leverage that asset. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the money part, and because everyone always is looking at weighing their time and money. So let's leverage for investment the money that we have and access to, and talk about how we can use that in 2024 again for a quantum leap. So tomorrow we'll be talking about the profit part of the profit plan. The basics like revenue minus expenses is profit, and your earnings are a result of your investment, the law of compensation. And we're really going to talk about values-based spending as opposed to just spending. So I hope to see you tomorrow. I thank you again so much for spending the time. It's been a real honor. And any questions, I will respond tonight. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow back here on the event page for my LinkedIn. If you hadn't registered for day 3, you can do so right there, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye. Winning Wednesday. Be in the spirit of selling.